great to have you on, Vincent. Always a pleasure to catch up with you and speak. This week, guys, welcome to episode of Build with Stacky. And this week we have Vincent from Palladio, the sort of clay agency, go-to-market agency. But Vincent, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what Palladio do?
Yeah, sure. Super pleased to be here, James. Awesome. Thanks for the invite. And just to give you a little bit of background before talking about Palladio and what we do, I used to lead SDR teams in multiple environments, mostly corporate type roles and companies, right? Up to 5,000 employees and also scale ups. So running teams from 2, 3 SDRs up to 50. And therefore, when I came across Clay, to me, that was a revelation of something that was really, really needed. And now what we do with Palladio is we help companies who are looking into Clay, either who have already purchased it and find it challenging to implement it properly. So we go and help them, or they are really exploring tools and we help them to understand what Clay can do for them when they compare it with other tools on the market.
Excellent. And you help them sort of with some of that setup and the execution so that they can then own their own clay instance? Or do you also sort of provide like a maybe more of the outsource model where you prepare it, you build it and supply them with the leads and the information that it provides?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So typically our goal compared to, I would say, the majority of clay agencies who are running, let's say, external lead generation as lead generation providers,
Yeah.
what we want to do is be an implementation partner. A little bit like when you buy a CRM and you're not too sure, you want to make sure it's implemented, connected correctly to your system. That's what we do. We come in, connect to your existing tools, your existing environment. We implement it in collaboration with you, how you want it to work, right? And then, of course, we can go depending on the service and depending on what's needed, depending on the existing structure of the team, quite deep in the level of service we provide.
Excellent. And like super important today. And I like that differentiation that you guys are making. I think there's been a bit of an explosion over the last few years in the number of lead gen agencies in the market. And there's kind of like this new breed versus the traditional sort of SDR agency model that I'm from. And good or bad for the market, it's very crowded. And we have so many SDR leaders, sales directors, CROs come to us at Stacky and they say, we've kind of got clay. We've got like a waterfall enrichment set up, but what else should we be doing? What else? What else? Because it is quite technical, and to get the most out of it, having you guys be able to come in and support, help me set it up, help arrange it for my team, help my team also learn more about it is so valuable for long-term growth and long-term pipeline building, right?
Yeah, 100%. And actually, James, I think you pinpointed something super important is that, and this is the reason why we decided to position Palladio that way as well, is because Clay originally, when it came to market 7 years ago, was a data enrichment tool and was purely focused on doing that very well. And that's the reason why a lot of people still have it in their mind as, hey, if I want to buy Zoom Info or data tool, what about Clay, right? And they have that first in mind. But right now, if you look on the website, Clay is much more than this. It's basically when we speak to clients about Clay, before they even think about buying it, we position it as an orchestration layer across their existing tool stack. Because this is really where the big value can be provided by Clay.
Absolutely right. And to that point, I think what we decided we would be doing today, and we've done this before with Jen Chambers from Demand Science, who spoke us through a conversation between a sales leader and the marketing team as they tried to implement ABM. Today, we're going to go through sort of what a conversation might look like and the questions a sales director or a CRO who has a strong sort of SDR team. But there's often that pressure from, maybe it's from the board, maybe it's from other C-level, maybe it's from actual members of the team who are aware of Clay, and everyone's saying, we should look at more AI, we should look at more Clay. And so they might have had an instance themselves. But we're going to kind of play a role. I'm going to play the role of a sales director or CRO with that SDR team under them. And Vincent, you're going to play the role. You are the go to market engineering clay expert who can provide that real advice and expertise. So we've pulled together sort of 5 or 6 questions that people have genuinely asked me and Vincent over the last few months, and we've helped them sort of go through. And these are real questions that we'd advise sort of the sales director to ask their internal RevOps team or challenge people in their team or maybe any agency they're thinking about working with to make sure they're going down the right route with it. And as we were just about to allude to there, which is why I thought I'd set up the conversation, one of those initial things is Clay just an enrichment tool? So a lot of people seem to start with Clay as sort of that contact enrichment or waterfall tool. And me as that sales director or CRO, that's kind of my current mindset. But is that a good place to start? Or am I already in the wrong mindset there, Vincent?
So I will say it's a good place to start in a sense that you've identified a critical business problem. And therefore you have a need to get better data in your system, in your team to better perform, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is what you need to keep in mind. Now, is Clay just good at providing me a good data quality? Yes, it is, but it can do a lot more than that, right? And as I just mentioned in the introduction, I think it's due to Clay original positioning, because when they came to market 7 years ago, that's purely what they were doing. Now, if you go onto Clay's website today, you're going to do something very different. On their website, it's written, go to market with unique data and the ability to act on it, right? And so this is where it differentiates itself from just comparing it to a Zoom Info or a Lucia or a Cognizant or whatever is out there, because it's about really interconnecting the rest of the tool stack that you have to maximize the actions that you're going to be able to take with your clients, existing clients, or prospects, right? And that is a big differentiator for sure.
Right. And so then what we were saying is that it makes sense to think about it for the enrichment, but actually what I'm really thinking about is that problem I'm trying to solve, which is good data, probably connection rates, stuff like that. And then you're going to start to look at how can Clay not only just supporting that data, but start to orchestrate, which is actually then going to impact that initial problem where I came to the conversation with.
Correct. So typically what we're doing is when we're having conversation, and that happened to me only a couple of days ago, about, hey, we have this data tool stack that we're thinking should be improved. Is Clay a good solution? We started to actually dig a little bit further and understand, okay, but how are you actually working, right? Because I come from a sales development background, and luckily I can understand exactly the type of setup those teams are in. And typically, unfortunately, even up until now, they still work very much in silos. Marketing has its budget, spends its budget, generate leads, leads go to the SDRs, SDRs qualify them, and then it's out passed to sales. The whole goal with Clay is that a lot of, for example, if you think about, for your sales team, so SDRs and sales, a lot of the typical manual prospecting work that you have to do, which on average takes 2 to 3 hours per day, per account, let's say per rep, can be fully automated. So all the heavy lifting that the team has to do, right, can be done through Clay, connecting it to different tools through API connection to
Mm-hmm.
allow to do all that heavy lifting completely automated and at scale, right? Plus, then it also allows you to add prioritization. So when you think about then, okay, I want good quality data, but how many accounts do I have? Maybe I have 2,000, 3,000 accounts, okay? And once I have my good quality data, am I just going to spray and pray and hope that the meetings will come out? Or does it actually make sense to find the right signals and attack the right account or persona at the right time, right? And this is where you can go with Clay.
We're kind of moving into the territory now where Clay now starts to feel too technical. And that might put some people off, but when people do realize it has all these capabilities, they just start trying to do some really specific things. Like we had inquiries around trying to pre-screen lists about exactly how many people were in a certain job title in a certain department and stuff like that. And it doesn't necessarily give the right results for that type of situation. It's more about the orchestration of everything together. So, how should teams really think about that boundary of when I'm using it to my fullest capability versus I'm trying to be really too specific or too technical?
Yeah, I think it's more of a. So I understand completely there, but I think it's more of a question of how can I say, really using the tool for what it is, and that could be, and you tell me, right? But that could be one of the, or many times where some of the people you talk to, CROs or sales leaders, come to you and say, "Hey, we've tried Clay, but it's super expensive,"
Yeah,
right? And why is that? Is because they don't know how to use it properly. So they use it just for data enrichment. They use it just using Clay credits within Clay. They use the features that are available natively within Clay to make it easy, right, to use. And so this is kind of the first layer of using Clay and understanding how it works. But then I think the deeper question is, what is your approach and what is your strategy? Are you trying to solve a short term problem and have a short term fix? Or are you actually trying to think, okay, I want to solve my short term problem, but I also want to set up something that's going to help me mid-term, long-term to grow, double the size of the teams, become more performant, and so on, right? Because this is not then the same decision that you're going to take. You want to solve a short-term problem, you're going to go for a short-term fix, simple. You want to sort out a more mid-term, long-term problem and be more strategical about it. Then it makes sense that you go a little bit deeper in the technical aspect of it. Now, the other element and the mistakes we've seen some of the teams do is they get Clay and they give it to their team to use. This is not an SDR tool. This is not an AE tool, right? So this is not like a Lucia where you're going to go and play with it and ultimately lose a lot of time trying to get to the result. This is a tool that requires good level of implementation to avoid your team spending time in the wrong areas so that they can actually focus on high quality activities, which is what you ultimately want to pay your team for, right?
yeah. Stop paying your team not to talk to people.
Exactly, right? So you hire SDR in the first place to talk to people, send email, reply to positive replies. You don't hire your team and pay them to search for the data, search for the information of the account, and so on, which we used to do. Don't get me wrong, 10 years ago when I was leading my team, that's what we used to do. But now you can have AI and Clay plug in together to do all that heavy lifting for you. So, yes, therefore, it becomes a little bit more technical in implementation. And so we kind of have two typical solutions there. We either have teams that are a little bit mature already, that have maybe someone in the RevOps team or in the marketing ops team that is, technical enough, because it's not super complex either, right? It's just about understanding API connection and so on, and prompt engineering mostly. And so if you have those type of people, that can easily be actually part of their career development for them to grow into what we now start to see a lot, GTME, right? GTM engineering, right? The engineering word is probably a bit overdone, to be honest, but
Yeah,
it's exactly that. It's about really understanding your go-to-market approach from marketing to sales to all the way to even CSMs. We have use cases that are where Clay is used in the CSM world, right? Um, and how that can interconnect together so that the team wastes less time and becomes more productive on high quality and valuable activities.
one of the points you make there as well, just when we start talking about like boundaries where it is useful, it isn't, where it's too technical, where it's overkill, where it's helpful. In all of that, you made a point of like, you shouldn't be giving it to the SDRs, you shouldn't be giving it to the AEs. We don't want to give it to people who we're paying to talk to customers. We're not paying them to configure things and fill around the tables and work all these other bits out. They're people who want to be dealing human to human interactions. So, what can be done to sort of upskill the people using Clay so that we know it is built in the right way?
Yeah, so that's part of the services that we typically deliver. Is the first stage typically is that we come in, we work very closely with whoever is going to be owning Clay, if you like, right? So that we can build the right workflows for the team, the right workflows for the SDRs, for the AEs, end to end, right? And then while we do that, we train that person that is going to be responsible of Clay, so that once the implementation is done, hopefully that person is comfortable enough to be able to start to build their own workflows by themselves, right? Because to be very honest, only the creativity that one has is the limit of Clay. Like, it can go very, very far in things that you can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, for example, no later than this morning, I was on a call with a general manager of a sales team and a tech company in EMEA, right? And we talked about account-based marketing personalization. What you can do with Clay, once you have all the data, is to create, for example, hyper-personalized landing pages. So you can do that at scale for your account executive team. So when they reach out, they don't just reach out with a basic email. They reach out with a landing pages that's been created automatically at scale for their account, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then, back in that sort of sales director, CRO shoes, starting to understand about the orchestration, starting to understand where the boundaries of its capabilities are, who in my team should have access and who should use it. Aware now that I can get some external, maybe training, support, and guidance for that team to set it up, orchestrate everything. One of the things you mentioned was creativity, and there's like, in some ways, there's almost no limits, and the creativity of the individual who's owning Clay is sometimes actually the biggest blocker, right? Which kind of comes back to then, like, as a sales director and CRO, I've started to understand all of that. Where is that capacity? What's the maximum capacity I could be using it for, and where's the complexity? So maybe it's that classic trade off on, I can understand it could do all of this, and I'm going to really nail it and use it here. Where should I stop? Like, maybe what are the guardrails I could put around it to that classic trade off on, cool, Clay's the big flexible platform that's going to do a load of stuff, and where am I going to lean on specialized tools, whether it be a signal capture tool like user gems, or a data enrichment tool like a full enrich, or some other example, right? Where should leaders think about, going to use Clay here, here, and here versus a specialized tool?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a very good question. It's about urgency at the end of the day, right? And prioritization. And I think what we tend to do with all the clients that we support is, when they come to us and talk to us about Clay and what they can do, it's because they have a specific problem they're trying to fix today, right?
Yeah.
And so what we do then is we educate them on how much and how far it can go, but it's a little bit like a cake. You don't want to chew it all in one go, right? So then we break it down, and then we say, okay, priority number one, in the next, say, 2 months, we're going to focus on creating these and these and these workflows because they're critical for your team. They're critical for your success in this quarter or in this year. This is what we're going to deliver. While we do that, that does not stop us. And what's interesting, actually, what we're seeing is, as people start to use Clay and see the benefit of Clay as an end user. So if I'm an AE and I start to receive all those great notifications about the account preparation, what tends to happen is many more ideas came up. Oh, can we do this? Oh, can we do that? Oh, can you also create this? So then there is actually a bunch of new ideas that come up over time, right? Both from the different departments that use Clay, where it's just all about like a bit of a brainstorming session, if you like, where we can then review, reprioritize, and say, okay, we've done this, it's working well, it's generating ROI. What else can we do, and how far can we go with the tool? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And as all that starts to happen, and that it starts to maybe trigger those different thoughts and ideas,